Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. This week, we're going to talk about being new members and what our thoughts are on DVC so far. Coming up next. The DVC Show is brought to you by DVCstore.com. You can save thousands of dollars by purchasing your DVC contract with DVCstore.com. Let their resale experts help welcome you home. And by DisBoards.com. If you want to learn everything you'll ever need to know about Disney Vacation Club, visit the DVC forums on DisBoards.com and join in the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends from the DVC store, Mr. Jerry Saito.
Hello.
Joining us via Skype, Mr. Pete Scheidley.
Hi there, everyone.
And back on the controls in the Nook, Mr. Corey Fiasconaro.
Welcome home.
So I thought, since Corey and I are brand new members, I joined in February, you joined in April?
April sounds about right, yeah. April.
That we talk about what our thoughts and experiences are so far as new members, what our expectations were versus what the reality of it is. And then, we have more veteran owners here. Jerry, you've been an owner for 15 years now?
2004, yeah.
And Pete, you've been about 5 years, right?
5 years, correct.
So, and of course, I bought in direct. I ended up with 150 points direct. Started out with 75, bought another 75 at Copper Creek. But then Boulder Ridge, Beach Club, Bay Lake Tower, Saratoga Springs, and Boardwalk now in resale contracts because my pusher is right over here to my left. And then Fiasco bought in direct.
Yep, Copper Creek.
Over at Copper Creek.
75 points the same time that you were buying your second 75-point contract. And I just got to say that it is a really cool feeling when you go into the parks and everybody's magic bands are lighting up green or maybe even blue if their tickets expired or something, and yours lights up purple. You get a lot of looks. People are like, what's that? It's cool. It's a cool feeling.
And then the cast member says, "Welcome home."
Yeah.
It's a nice little touch that, but all right. So my expectations going in, again, DVC wasn't new for me. I mean, I knew what it was. I knew how it worked. I was well aware of it. And so, I think some of my expectations were managed in that regard. What I noticed was, and if you hear some noises, folks, some things are being delivered, and Craig's out there making sure they get delivered. But when I went into it from the standpoint of looking at how often I stay on property, but mostly how often my family comes down and stays on property. And given the fact that 2 bedrooms in my house are where I'm sitting right now, okay, because the studio consists of 2 bedrooms in my house with the wall knocked out, giving me only 1 guest room, so I really don't have the room for them to stay here, per se. So I often, I feel guilty about that. Plus, I do what I do for a living, so I'm always setting them up on site, and I usually pay for it. So that was kind of where my head was coming into it. What I didn't expect was, I'm trying to think of the right words, the emotional experience of being a member. It's very transactional when you're looking at it, when you're considering joining, right? It's very transactional. It's how much is it going to cost? How much am I going to save? It's kind of that approach to it. But it really hit me when I stayed at Bay Lake Tower. And now normally when I'm at Contemporary, for example, I'll stay concierge. I love the concierge lounge there, and that's one of my big concerns for me as somebody who tends to stay concierge. Was I going to miss that? And the answer was a resounding no, I didn't. And one of the reasons why I didn't was I was in a 1-bedroom, And I brought the stuff to make my own coffee, right? We all have our own coffee. We have the way we like our coffee, the type of coffee grinds that we like, the way we like to prepare it. And, I'm very particular about that. Now, granted, I don't usually make my coffee in a Mr. Coffee, but okay. So I went ahead and like brought all the stuff to make my own coffee. There was something, that's what gave it the feeling to me that I was in my own little apartment, a 5-minute walk to the Magic Kingdom. That just kind of blew my mind. Then there was the experience of putting my family up. Again, I went into it kind of transactionally thinking I'll save money by putting them up, but then getting the reaction from my family of, wow, this place is gorgeous. This is incredible. How come we never stayed here before? And given that my mom is going to be, she's 88, going to be 89, trying to get as much family down here as I can to spend time with her and have those family experiences while she's still around and can still get around. That was all kind of unexpected, like that emotional aspect. But then the perks that go along with membership, and honestly, some of these things are only available to members who buy direct. Moonlight Magic at Epcot, that was like unlike any event I've ever been. First of all, it's free. So it's an after-hours event that's free. And they give away like free food and free soda and free ice cream. And it's been really cool. The unexpected part of it, too, was how complicated it is. Like, not realizing just how complicated it is to figure out. Like, your use years and we've talked about walking reservations and all this other stuff. There's a lot of complexity to it. But what about you, Fiasco?
Yeah, so one of the things I definitely want to mention is the facilities that you have access to if you're a DVC member. Like the Top of the World Lounge is awesome.
Yeah.
I got to experience that a number of times before I actually bought DVC because I was with you. But when we had friends come down here and I brought them up there, it was such a cool experience to see like it for the first time through their eyes. Like they thought it was like the best thing ever, and I think it is one of the best sites on property that and DVC members have exclusive access to it and their guests. It's an awesome lounge, and I really like that when my friends and family are down here and I have a stay synced up, or I can plan a stay synced up with their plans, that I can bring them up there. It's absolutely awesome. Another thing that I'd like to mention is so there's no question that if you visit Disney World yearly or every other year, that this is going to end up paying for itself. It's going to. But depending on your lifestyle, maybe a little bit quicker. I'm somebody I'm a little addicted to spas lately. A little addicted to spas. I go probably at least once a month. And sometimes you just get these awesome deals being a member. Like I was just telling Jerry, we were at the Beach Club for Haley's birthday.
40% off.
And we got 40% off a couple's massage at Ship Shape. That would have originally been over $300. I have a 75-point contract. That basically justified my entire month's pay of my contract just in a spa treatment I would have done anyways. So.
And, you mentioned Top of the World Lounge, and I talked about, was I going to miss the concierge lounge at the Contemporary? Now, keep in mind that when you stay concierge, you're getting pretty much the same room as you would be. It might be on a higher floor, on the concierge floor, but it's pretty much the same room as anywhere else in the resort. You're just paying a premium for it, and that premium is anywhere from $175 to $300 a night more for access to the lounge. Well, I'm sorry, there's no concierge lounge that can compare with Top of the World, and I'll go ahead and pay the extra $15-20 for some tapas and a soft drink versus $200 a night at Top of the World or at the concierge lounge. But yeah, when you mention that, because I'd never been up there before. Prior to being a member, I'd never been up there. And I remember like the first time walking in there, I was like, oh my God. But it's also like, I'm really excited to use points out at Alani. I love Alani. We're going to do another show in Alani. We did one back in November before I was a member, and I think that was one of those final straws that kind of pushed me over the edge. And also for me in particular, I think being such a huge Disney fan, obviously starting the DIS and these shows and all that other stuff, to start having Disney experiences that were new to me, that always excites me. But a lot of people ask me, do I regret buying? And like the answer is absolutely not. Every experience I have, I'm happier and happier that I bought in. I wasn't sure. But the other thing, I think, expectation versus reality, was what I expected or thought I was going to need points-wise going in, and then very quickly realizing afterwards, you're going to need double that. I think that's probably a very common thing, which is where add-on-itis comes in.
Yeah, that's very common. People buy additional points all the time because it's so nice, your accommodation, so easy to use, that you just run out of points. You want to go.
Well, and part of it is that thing, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So when you have these points, you want to use them, right? You want to use them. And I think people plan how many points they're going to buy based on what their history has been traveling to Disney World, staying in hotel rooms. But then once they're DVC members, they feel they want to stay more often, and they want more points to do that. I think that happens a lot. What was your experience, Pete, coming in? Expectation versus reality.
So I think, obviously my experience is different from any of you because I'm coming in from New York State, so I'm not a local coming in. I bought in 2014. I thought about DVC before that, but I thought it was a little too much to justify cost-wise, but then that's when I found out about resale. And at the time, the prices were even better than they are now. So I bought in, and the idea was we'd been going regularly almost every year since 2006. By that point, so it was about 8-9 years, we'd been coming every year, and we said, I think we're going to keep using this. I think what surprised me the most, though, is it really changed my attitude about vacations. Even though we still only go typically once, maybe twice a year, because we're owners, we know we're coming back.
Right.
There's no case of, well, if I have the money next year, we'll do it. This is, we have the points. We're going to use them. We're not going to, we don't have a ton of points. It's not like we want to rent them out. So, we go, and it's like more laid back than it used to be. It wasn't, it used to be that, we got to hit all the rides because we don't know if we're going to come back next year, and we want to, make sure we get on this ride. Oh, that ride's closed. Oh, it's so disappointing. Now we go, and it's like, Splash Mountain is down. Well, we'll get there next time, let's go back to the room at noon and just relax by the pool because the resort's so nice. We were always staying at moderates, which are fine, but it was such an upgrade to be able to stay at the more deluxe resorts that it just, I don't know. I was very excited by it, and it's much happier about it than I expected to be, I think.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I want to echo that we've been hearing a lot of people talk about, especially as the parks have gotten more crowded, and that's not going to get any better anytime soon. We have Galaxy's Edge opening soon. We have the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World coming in a couple of years. So foreseeable future, the next 5 years, crowds aren't going down. They're going to go up. And so a lot of people are talking about resort-only stays. And I think DVC members are uniquely positioned for that. I don't think a lot of people staying at, just doing the normal hotel thing are going to spend the money just to stay at the resorts. But for DVC members, that's a luxury we have because we know we're going to have our points next year and the year after and the year after that. So I don't have to worry about whether or not I get in right away on that stuff. And like, and again, I'll go back to Alani. Alani is a great example of a DVC resort only stay, because there are no theme parks there. And let me tell you, you can absolutely do a week at Alani and not leave the hotel. Not that there's not amazing things to see and do on Oahu, but that resort is incredible. But we were talking in a recent show about Animal Kingdom Lodge Villas being another one that's a great resort only. But I think DVC members are more predisposed to think like that for the very reasons that you were talking
and
about.
Another thing that surprised me was we ended up one of our first stays. We did a split stay between Beach Club and the Poly, and I always because we wanted to experience these resorts, but I found out how cool that is to actually take. I don't know if we did four days at each or 4 or 5 days, but it almost turned the vacation into like 2 vacations. Like you had one vacation at Beach Club, and you went to Epcot, and you went to Hollywood Studios from there, and then we went over to the Poly, and then we focused more on Magic Kingdom, and it was, again, a unique experience, and such that we've actually done a lot of split stays since then, because, as I said, it almost made it seem like we're having 2 vacations instead of one, and that's the beauty of, I think, the DVC, is that you have these resorts to choose from. If you can get in at 7 months, even not owning at them.
What fiasco? What's disappointed you about being a member?
Well, I wouldn't say that I've been disappointed yet. I will say my mentality's completely changed. What I thought I was going to do with my DVC has changed. So, my initial thought going in was, I can get, studios for as low as 10 points a night. That means that I can do, X amount of days here and da-da-da-da-da. And I washed that, especially, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if I actually wanted it, I could still try to do it. It would just be a little bit of work to try and get the studios when I wanted them and stuff. It was more of, once you stay in a 1-bedroom, your mindset kind of changes. Like once I stayed in a 1-bedroom, I'm like, I'd rather pay more points and have this 1-bedroom because it just feels better.
They're also easier to get.
Yeah.
They're also easier to get. I think my big, I knew about the resale restrictions coming in. I bought started buying in February, which was after the most recent round of resale restrictions. I knew about them coming in, but as a member, I'm even more disappointed in DVC's decision to do that. To a certain degree, I understand it. I understand, events like Moonlight Magic. Things like that can't be paid out of annual dues. That's paid by people who are buying directly into Disney. So I understand why they limit events like that to people who buy direct. I get that. But they have created this class system now. This class system of, you don't get this, and you don't get that, and you don't get this, and you don't get that if you buy resale. I don't think any of the I really don't think any of the resale restrictions justify necessarily buying direct. I think the amount of money you save buying resale more than compensates for whatever you're losing in terms of those perks. And those perks tend to go away and they tend to change.
Right.
And
so I purchased back in 2004, so I've seen Disney change over the years. And to me, people ask me all the time when they're purchasing, they're like, I want to buy direct. I want to be a real member. I want to be, somebody who purchased directly from Disney and have that membership card. And that membership card's nice, and there's some great perks that come along with it. But, those perks were not always there. In 2004, back then, there was, you might have gotten 10% here or there on certain things, but they didn't have Moonlight Magic events. They didn't have the member lounges. They didn't have these things. So it's kind of a new thing since 2016 is when these things started popping up. But there's no guarantee they'll be forever. So I look at it when I use my membership. When I check out and I'm on my way home, I'm like, man, I just stayed at a Disney Deluxe Resort for I feel like for free. Even though I have annual dues, I mean, I still feel like I stayed there for nothing.
That cannot be understated. That feeling of I just spent 3 nights at the Contemporary, and the bill that was hanging on my door was for about $300, and that just is because of the souvenirs or meals that I charge back to my room, as opposed to the bill I would normally see when I check out of the Contemporary that was several $1,000s. Now, yes, I'm paying for that, in terms of my, paying for my points, but there is a feeling when you have your first DVC stay and you see that bill at the end and it's negligible, like, okay, this is cool.
There were actually 2 things that I'm without a doubt disappointed with that I just thought of because of what you just brought up. One, I haven't got my blue card yet, so I'm still going through my phone. I don't always need the blue card because I have everything. I have Tables in Wonderland. I have Annual Pass. Usually they cover the same things, but they don't always. So I'm always fumbling through my pictures to try and find the image of my blue card. That's a pain. I should have had it by now. The second thing is I saw on DVC Fan on the Facebook group that people were getting pins. I'm a massive pin collector. Nobody offered me pins. So
okay, so I put in for my first blue card when I joined in February. I emailed my rep again a month later. I still hadn't gotten it. Emailed him a month after that I still hadn't gotten it. Went to the website, put in for it again. Then when I was with you, when you were signing your contract and I got my next 75 points, mentioned to that rep that it was really ticking me off. And then finally, about 3 weeks ago, it finally came in the mail. And then about a week after that, another one came in the mail. So it's feast or famine. But I think if you call them up and really just make some noise, you'll get it. But Pete, what were you disappointed about?
I wouldn't say it was disappointment, but I was surprised to see how, as you said, how complicated it kind of can be to book things, and especially when you want studios. In the end, I'm kind of an analytical type of person. I mean, you can probably tell from those charts that I put together that I don't mind doing the work. But I was really surprised that there was a lot of work there. And I also do agree with you. I really don't like these resale restrictions they've put in. I was lucky enough that when I bought in, the only restrictions on resale were that you couldn't put your points into like the concierge and the Disney collection, which isn't a good value anyways. So I have the full member perks for my resale contract, or for my first resale contract, but especially this latest one where, trying to cut off your ability to go into other resorts, that really is a turnoff to me. The idea of buying Riviera, either direct or buying it resale, and just being limited to that one resort. It's nice that you can still go into any of the other resorts and still get that, get into any of the other 14 or however many there are. But I'm really disappointed with Disney for that change, because as you said, it really makes like, hey, you're only good enough to stay at this one resort. You can't go anywhere else. And I just think it's not a good policy. And I think it also hurts the direct owners, because now you're going to have a group of people that can only stay at that resort, so they're going to be booking right away at that resort. It's going to make it harder for you to get into your own resort.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
My feeling is that it only hurts the direct owner, and it's because it's the value of their property. I mean, you're buying into the Disney Vacation Club program, and if you ever have to sell, things change, so you may have to sell, and that may devalue your property. So, the resales will always exist. People will have to sell their property at some point. Perhaps not. Maybe they keep it full term. But if Disney's taking away things, it may devalue that property, and that could be detrimental to the program. And
Anybody have regrets
no.
about being a DVC member?
No, not at all.
Yeah, same here.
I didn't buy more.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that now because I'm up to what, 1,300 points
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
So, all right. So that's going to do it for this episode of the DVC show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back with you again next week. Have a great week, everybody.